Welcome back to Momentous Struggle, a Star Wars Shatterpoint podcast. On this week's episode, Aubrey and I are going to take a look at the Kit Fisto box that's going to be coming out and kind of like just give our first thoughts on it. I know that the spoil on this one happened like over a month ago now, but I really think we wanted some time to marinate on it and not just give like straight hot takes of like and everything like that. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit of Kit Fisto and his box and everything along those lines. So let's jump on into it. And as always, joined by Aubrey. Aubrey, how are you doing? How is your week going?
I have to say, I had probably one of my rougher belt tests yesterday. It was uh so for those of you who don't pay attention to my random ramblings, I do Haidang Gumdo, a Korean sword martial art. And when they test you on about four things. There's a form, which is a sequence of like choreographed maneuvers you have to perform. A skill test where you do either like a stance focus or a cutting focus or some kind of thing where it's like a smaller version of a form, and then a like an ability thing where you either cut through a target or cut at a moving target or snuff out a candle or all these other things. But usually most forms are like 30 to 45 seconds long. The what I had to do yesterday is like 90 to 120 seconds depending on what you're doing, and it has 12 jumps in it. And I gotta say, yeah, no, it's pretty crazy.
So
And
like you you
uh
you embodied the whole white men can't jump thing with a sword, is what you're saying?
I did all right. I did all right, but it definitely as my teacher says, belt tests are not to show mastery, they're to show, where you are with it. And I was having a rough time even with like the paper cutting. I think I was just running out of steam cuz on belt day you also get to do everything at least 2 to 3 times, and they at least gave me a break in between because it's pretty intense. But so I did pass my test, but my teacher was like, we're gonna work on a couple of things in class. So it was one of those like qualified successes. So
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
coming down I'm coming down from that. Still, that's what's on my mind. What about you, Todd? What's going on with you?
Yeah, same old stuff. I mean, luckily I was able to get I mean, as far as like Shatterpoint goes, I was able to get a game in on Wednesday. I met up with Quaint Man. I don't I can never remember his real name. Like Discord like ruins you on that, where it's like you just get to know everyone by their Discord names and not their actual names. So like with Holden, I just like knew him by like so. But yeah, so um no, I had a game with him on Wednesday because I met up with to play in my MCP league game, and then he just which was on Wednesday, and then he just happened to come up, and I'm like, okay, well, let's get a game in. Um, it's interesting, like not that he's learning. I mean, but I think everybody's still kind of learning when it comes to the game. You're always learning when it comes down to it. So there was like sometimes where he would come like come up with some of these like this little things like he was going to reserve his Shatterpoint card, and I'm like, okay, you shuffle it back in. He's like, no, it just goes to the bottom of the deck. I'm like, no, it gets shuffled in. And so just little things like that where it's like, and so we both pull out the rule books just to sit there and he's like, oh yeah, I guess it does get shuffled in. I'm like, yeah, it does. So it was just interesting, like, like going back and playing someone in that part of the game when they're still, getting some of the rules and everything down. So it was an interesting time. But had a good game. I ended up playing Bad Batch, and I wanted to run something a little different with them. So I ran Maul, which isn't that different for me, but I ran Maul with Django Fett and Bounty Hunters. So, and that was a fun list. I mean, putting Django back out there was kind of fun. I think that's one of those where, with all the releases and everything that we've had, we kind of forgot about Django in a lot of ways and forgot what he like that he still does have a good kit and still can do a lot of things because he pretty much held down a point by himself at one point in time, like especially in the end of the game. So I think I lost the first struggle in that game, and then a second struggle, like I had all 4 points right off of the flip, and then we had a pretty grindy third struggle, but it was really Django kind of doing his thing. and everything along those lines. So it was interesting. It was a pretty interesting game though overall. He and I played against Iden Box Mothbox. So it was, but it was, and I think it's
Oof.
yeah, it was a little rough. I mean, but he had a really interesting start. Like had to go with his primaries really early. Oh, I think it was yeah. I might be confusing games, but yeah, he had. No, I'm thinking of your game that you and I played, where you ended up getting your primary
Yeah, I
stuck
was
and
like,
didn't.
wait a minute.
No,
I was
no,
like,
I'm thinking of that one.
I didn't I didn't wants
Iden
to go
going early is
early,
good.
Todd, remember?
Yeah, yeah, Iden does want to go late. So no, but overall it was a pretty good. I think oh, what it was he ended up getting he shatterpointed early his oh god, the ISF. Um so the ISF basically got wounded really early because he moved them pretty far, like almost to the midline, and made them a pretty easy target for me. Which in retrospect, I don't know if that was probably the best move by him, because he really moved a lot of his primary or his supports up to a little farther forward than I think he needed to, which just made them get wounded really fast. So, but overall, I mean, like I said, overall, a
Yeah.
very fun game. Like I said, it's more of like learning and stuff like that. So he had a good time, had a fun time playing. Have you gotten any Shatterpoint stuff in? I'm assuming no.
Nah, this week was all about getting ready for that belt test, so I did a lot of extra practice with paper cutting because it's funny. Again, I'm sorry, you all came here for Shatterpoint content. No, I'm going to tell you more about swords because that's what's on my mind. Uh, like the skill stuff that I had to practice, aside from like the form being super dynamic and very Ataru. The rest of it was really just doing more advanced versions of things I've done before. So like normally when we do paper cutting, you have a sword that's designed for it, designed for paper cutting. But now at the level that I'm at as a black belt, they want me to start using my aluminum sword. Because cutting through paper is not really about literally slicing the paper. It's really the motion of the weapon going through the paper leads to it cutting as long as you do it right. So I spent most of the week practicing all my skills and doing my other stuff, and that's the funny thing about what you were saying. We might know things, but can we remember it and execute it in the moment? Because on my practice on Friday, I did everything very well, and Saturday morning rolled around, I didn't do as well. So the lesson is also just being consistent and still we're all still learning things. That's why I'm coming back to this, because you were talking about the Shatterpoint rule, and I was thinking, yeah, I mean, there are times when I'm in a tournament and I will just turn around because a lot of times Matt Booker or Samson will be there, and I'll be like, guys, how does blah 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 work? And like I have this resigned tone, probably usually, because I'm like, I know this rule, I've read the book, but it's like hour 3 of playing Shatterpoint, and I don't remember right now. Can you help me? And those two always have,
Yeah,
they've got it in their head locked down.
yeah. I mean, as far as like, it's very nice having those two as a resource in our community, where that you can just turn to someone who has that kind of knowledge just readily available. I mean, like Booker is just an encyclopedia of like the rules for him. Like he can just, oh yeah, they ruled on this like just about this long ago, and here's the ruling. And so he's just an encyclopedia when it comes down to it, and being able to have that in a actual like physical tournament, not just in like a digital space or something like that, but actually in a physical tournament, like you can just turn to someone and ask that, is kind of a nice little thing. But yeah, I mean, so,
Well, and I was just gonna say one more thing, and kind of my point is we shouldn't feel bad. It's not like I don't know the rules. It's not like you don't know the rules, but we all should be working together to come to the result in our games. It shouldn't be, no, I'm right and I'm gonna stamp my foot and I don't care about anyone else. Though you might not be remembering that interaction correctly, and that's okay. It's a lot to keep in your head all at once for hours and hours straight.
yeah, and I mean, one of the things that that you hear a lot, especially within the AMG community as a whole, is you're playing a game together, not like yes, you are opponents, but you are also playing the game together. I mean, that's a mantra that you hear like a lot on Rogue Support with like Matt C, Damio Matt. He really definitely says that a lot, where it's like the two of you are, you're playing a game together. Yes, you are opponents, but you are still playing together. And I think that's something that I know I would hope that a lot of us strive for as we, continue to play these games and everything like that.
Yeah, and their I think it was their latest episode or maybe the one before that, where they were talking about, hey, no one has mastered this game yet. This game hasn't existed
Exactly,
long enough for anyone
exactly.
to have
There,
mastered this
there's
game.
there's people that are
Now,
very good,
I
right?
I was gonna say
There's people that are
there's a
very
lot of
good.
yes, yeah. You beat me to it, Todd. I was gonna qualify. There's a lot of people that are on their way to that sort of mastery, but you're we're always improving. We're always learning. And then they're going to release another
Right,
box or update a mechanic and you're going to learn some more.
right, exactly. So yeah, so I guess that kind of is a good point to like trying to like go into the main thing that we wanted to talk about today was like the Kit Fisto box. I mean, the Kit Fisto is just a very beloved character, I think, in Star Wars. He's one of a lot of people's favorite character for sure. Just that smile that he's always got on him. He's always got that big grin on his face. So I think he just really is someone that kind of like people have been drawn to his character in the Star Wars universe quite a bit. So like him coming out, I think is going to be pretty exciting for a lot of people. I know like Jake, who's going with us to Adepticon next week, he's super excited about this because Fisto is like one of his just all time favorite characters. So there's a lot of people that I think are just going to buy this box simply out of their love for Kit Fisto.
I mean, I've got a
Did
dark
you
fact
freeze
for
Aubrey?
you. To,
Okay.
wait,
Okay.
am I here?
Is it dark
Can
or
you
is it the
hear
one where he's
me?
yeah, actually Is it dark or is it just that have to do with like him having the ability to do something that no one else can do? Or is that Kiadi Mundi? I think it's Kiadi Mundi. It's one of the two of
No, no,
them.
no, no, no. No. I got a dark one for you about his
Okay.
smile. So, fun fact. I'm sorry to hurt you all. Kit Fisto lovers, but as you may recall, he does not survive the attempt to bring Palpatine to justice, and Matthew Stover is famous for, like, in his own works, he's very dark, pretty gruesome, pretty graphic. And Star Wars, Lucasfilm let him stretch things a little bit in the books they gave him, because I mean most of them are dark stories. In the Revenge of the
Hmm.
Sith novelization, uh, when Anakin Skywalker comes in to the Chancellor's office to find him during that fight, he notices that Kit Fisto's head is sitting on the table in that like open chamber and is smiling at him. And he goes, "Huh, I guess he smiles even in death," and keeps running into the room. So there's your bit of dark. There's your bit of dark humor ending for Kit Fisto. Sorry everybody. Sorry everybody.
All right. Well, that's an interesting interesting story, Aubrey.
There's your random Star Wars fact for today.
Right. All right. Well,
Todd's like, I don't know
let's
how to
actually look at
respond to this story.
I really don't. I really don't. But let's go
Everyone,
ahead, I guess, just
I
look
made
at Kid
Todd
Fisto.
speechless for the first time ever.
I mean, that's normally a story I would be really interested in. So it's like, I guess the speechless part is like, why are you excited about this? I mean, I'm excited about a headless Jedi, but I don't know why you're excited about a headless Jedi.
I'm just saying that I really like the Revenge of the Sith novelization, and you should read it if you haven't read it yet. It's a really good story, even if it's dark.
I don't think you've ever told anybody how much you enjoy that actual novelization. I don't think that's ever been said on this podcast
Mm-mm.
before by Aubrey.
Nope,
Okay.
nope. Nope, definitely not. Here's a happier one. He's got a new comic book coming out for those of you who are Kit Fisto lifers. He's apparently going to be like fighting sea monsters or something. It's being touted as a horror story, but it's in the like younger line of comics that's like more geared towards kids. So I don't know I don't know. I don't think you're gonna see any smiling headless Jedi in that story.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, let's talk about Kit Fisto as far as in the Shatterpoint game. So, I mean, looking at him, pretty straightforward again. 8 squad points, 3 force, 10 health, three, um, up to 3 wounds on him. Nothing like really spectacular that stands out. One thing that I did notice about him, he has the aquatic tag, which we haven't seen yet. I don't know what we're going to do with that one, but he is a Force user, Galactic Republican Jedi, which I think looking at the rest of his kit, I mean, he might be a pretty decent pairing with make doing like an all riposte list type of a thing. What with you doing that with say um Kiadi Mundi, because like he does have riposte. He does have force speed, which is pretty cool for one force to do the full move. So he has some pretty, utility type of abilities on him with that active and reactive ability, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. The big thing is that he's overall he's kind of a selfish character. He cares about him. Most of his abilities care about himself. Either gets steadfast and gets an expertise, or he has protection and immunity to pin depending on what stance you're in. And then he gets the cool, like, anytime he advances, he repositions instead. But that's all about him. The only thing in his kit that uh actually helps other characters is supporting fire, which is like a coordinated fire, but the and actually gives out a dash, which is really cool, but also kind of situational. You've got to make sure he's within range 5, and I mean, which isn't horrible given that he's got force speed and you can move him around a lot. But he doesn't just have an ability like some of our other primaries, either out of activation or an activated ability where he can just say, "Okay, I'm gonna dash you over there," and so that always makes me a little leery. Although you're getting the sneaky, oh, by the way, he's within range 5, and now I just dash this character somewhere they're not supposed to be. So I don't know which is gonna be better.
Yeah, I mean, I think the supporting fire is not good. I mean, it's pretty good, I should say, because one of the things to keep in mind is a lot of times, unless you're doing like a focus attack, you're usually moving before you do an attack. So you can move within range 5 of him, make your attack, and then get a dash out of that on top of it. So I think you can use this ability pretty well. Um, it's like you said, I think it's still going to be pretty situational, but I don't think it'll have its uses, I guess, is probably the better way to put it. I wouldn't discount this ability that as much as I think some people might.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've seen it before. Again, wasn't it? Sabe has this. Trying to remember what her ability. Yeah, coordinated. That's right. They called it coordinated assault. So I mean,
Mhm.
Sabe had this before, and Sabe was able to use it. It's just Sabe. What the interesting thing is that Sabe also had a conditional out of activation of movement. So like she had both and she was a secondary, but after the whole us being down on Kiari Mundi and him immediately being good, I'm just going to be like, we'll see how this works. We'll
Well,
see.
yeah, no, I get it. I mean, but I mean, there are some good aspects too. Like, I mean, even if when you start looking at like his stance cards, um, if you know on his Shinsho or Shichu side, he has potentially two pushes, two shoves on his first two. He can go shove shove, or he can go shove strain. Like if you get 4 down his tree, he has 3 shoves. So he's got a lot of interesting things that he can do. Or if you're on his Ataru side, I mean, he's got a shove on one, or a jump on one, or an expose on one, and then 2 heals on two. So he's got some pretty interesting things that he can do. Again, if you wanted to, even on that side, you could, if you go 4 down, you can get 3 shoves also. So he does have a lot of shoves on that side. There's a lot more movement though too. He can potentially get, if you don't go the shove route, you can get 3 jumps on his, if you go 4 down his tree, 2 jumps on 3. So but that one's interesting. What I really like about that on his Ataru side is on two, you could potentially jump, do a damage, and then jump into a position to where you're able to do two heals on somebody, and then either go and shove or jump again and do a damage. So it's there's some really interesting things that you can do with his kit there.
Yeah, at first I thought it was weird when I first looked at his card that the calm defense expertise on the Shicho side had the jumps, and the Ataru acrobatics had the crit mitigation. Because I was like, wait a minute, shouldn't Ataru have jumps? Then I looked at the three jumps in the actual combat tree, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. You put all the jumps up here. I was like, uh, if nothing else, Kit Fisto might be a selfish character, but he's going to move. Like this is gonna. I feel like he's gonna be kind of another Asajj you're where like she can just get halfway across the table, no problem. Even more than that, depending on like if you're on this Ataru side. If you want to move him, you're gonna be able to move him.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he could definitely move all over the place for sure. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, one of the other things that kind of jumps out at me is like on his Form One side, he does have six defensive dice there, which is nice, and he does have a pretty decent um, defense expertise. We're on 1 to 2. He gets two more blocks. Doesn't have the crit mitigation like he does on the Ataru side, but it's just crit to a regular strike, so it's not too crazy. But yeah, I mean, like I think you're in most cases probably going to be on your Ataru side and then switch over to your Shinshu side. But I don't know. I mean, it's like also looking at it. If you full tree, you're doing more damage on the Shinshu side as well.
Yeah, very it's very interesting. So talking about lightsaber lore for a second, before Matthew Stover kind of co-opted the idea for Vapod, Shi Cho was kind of was described as being a more aggressive form, being the first form that basically lightsaber wielders created, because the idea is that lightsaber combat evolved over history, because at first everybody was running around with lightsabers, so they were using lightsabers a lot. So that's why form one is really aggressive and deals with like the basics of fighting with a lightsaber. Form two is the dueling one, and then as people started making better and better ranged weapons, Form three came about as the result of needing better defense against ranged attacks. And so uh it's weird for me to think of, like, I always think of Ataru as being really aggressive, so I like that they, because it's so acrobatic and you move around so much. But I like what they did here with this tree, making sure that Form One was still the aggressive side out of the
Mhm.
two, because that definitely fits with the lore. Like, it's funny if you read the book where the Cestus Deception, where Kit Fisto runs around with Obi-Wan for the whole book. Um, and then later you read what Matthew Stover writes about Mace Windu, you're like, hey God, hey God, these forms sound kind of similar to each other. What do we do? What are we doing here? But I think that was a matter of somebody didn't check their notes before signing off on what Matthew Stover was writing, which is kind of funny.
Right.
Or maybe the other way around. I don't remember the order the books were released in.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, I think that kind of covers Fisto. Next, I think is like the probably the next logical person to talk about is Nagar Vib, the Jedi Knight, the former Padawan of Kit Fisto, who really only had a short run in Star Wars Clone Wars. His run was
Spoilers.
I mean, it's been long enough. I think that most people like probably that listen to this one know that he pretty much only appeared in one episode and decided to just run headfirst into a Grievous chainsaw. And it didn't work out well for him.
Yep, 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 yep. no. Sorry. Yeah, I got no notes on this one. That's there was it was bad enough watching it happen the first go around.
But one of the things that I noticed this with this box is pretty much on kind of on par with what we saw with the Kit Fisto box, where you're getting a 5 cost secondary that's a Jedi. He on this case though does not add any Force, but he is also a Jedi Knight, just like you had with Shock T. So that's something that we kind of need to look at. There is that's been a trend, at least, to see these, full the Jedi's that have passed the trials, so to speak, that are now getting the 5 point cost treatment in the development and of the characters themselves.
Yeah. And like things I do like about his kit is he does have a very global, very nice. I like this one. It's just choose an allied Galactic Republic character. The chosen character may dash. Thank you. No notes. And maybe this is why Kit Fisto doesn't have an on activation, because this one is just good. There's no qualifiers. It's not like just a Jedi character or just a clone trooper character or just some other qualifier here. Nope. You're playing this guy. You're probably playing Galactic Republic. Cool. You can move all of your other Galactic Republic people. Awesome. Well, including himself. He can move himself, which is also awesome.
Right, right. I mean, and like I said, overall his kit's amazing. I mean, he's got the I will hold them off, like for a force, where basically it rewards you for attacking primaries. Because basically the way that it works is if you attack a support, you add a dice. If you or if you attack a secondary, you add 2 dice, and if you attack a primary, you're adding 3 dice to your attack roll. So it's rewarding you for definitely attacking into those primaries. More than likely, you might not get to them depending on how early you can get to them. But I mean, he does have ways to kind of move himself a little bit too, to sit where he can try and get forward to get into a place where he can definitely do those attacks too.
Yeah. And this is maybe the thing we haven't quite figured out yet is that this is like this is starting to feel like aggro Galactic Republic. And I know a lot of people have been kind of ignoring this box because it comes out after Adepticon and everybody's kind of gearing up for Adepticon. But I wonder if this is going to see us like entering a space where Galactic Republic is the aggressor for the first time in a while. Because like between I will hold them off and then the fact that like um I got carried away, like, an enemy character makes a primary, he basically has like a miniature version of Hunter's ability, right? Because doesn't Hunter gets like a full move?
He just
I
gets a
don't
dash
remember.
also. No,
Oh,
so
okay. So
he
it's pretty much this. It's the
mhm.
same
Yeah.
as
I mean,
Hunter's
he
ability then.
basically has Hunter's ability. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that case, then, like, this guy is pretty much designed to try and go like primary and secondary hunting, and I mean, when you combine that with Kit Fisto, like you're gonna have some lightsabers up in some people's faces, I think, between the two of these
Yeah, no, I
units.
mean, definitely he does have a lot of movement, and keep in mind, like his activated ability, you can't defend us all or defeat us all. That he can use that on himself too. So he could, like, if a primary moves, he can move, and then, like, let's say for example, he does another move and then a full then he does his normal full advance on a move. He's pretty far across the board at that point in time and ready to put an attack into somebody. And depending on, like we were saying, depending on who he's attacking, he's at least adding 1 additional dice. So at very minimum, he doesn't have a range attack, but at very minimum he's adding 8 dice, potentially up to 10, because he has a starting attack of 7. So he can be anywhere from 8 to 10 dice on an attack. um doesn't do a whole lot of damage. At the most you're looking at 8 damage, but that typically will take out a secondary or definitely a support unit in most cases. So not so if he's going after a primary, that primary is probably going to have to get softened up a little bit. But 8 damage on 4 successes, especially if you're rolling 10 dice, is not unheard of, especially when you look at like his expertise tree. At 3 to 4 expertise, he's got 2 crits. 5 plus is 4 crits. I mean, so like if you spike crits, you know,
Yeah.
it's you're doing that 8 damage if you spike your crits. So I mean, that's always a possibility.
Yeah, no, this is definitely interesting to me. Like it looks like if you can get the right setup, like this is the only problem I feel is that Galactic Republic more than some of the other factions, less so now that you have like Bad Batch in the mix, but you felt like more than the other factions, you were a little bit dependent on your order deck, like going the right way, because it definitely feels like you do not want to go first or second with Nadar. You want like your clone supports or whatever supports you have on your team moving up, taking some pot shots, getting in like 3-4 damage on something, and then Nadar just comes in swinging to finish them off. So which is funny because he kind of also wants to go first. Like that's like they did a good job of capturing his, well, I'm gonna run up, nope, I'm not waiting for you, I'm gonna go attack now. I feel like he should, part of his identity should be he like gets a he gets like takes damage if he attacks General Grievous. I don't know.
Right.
That's all I got for
But I mean, but he
you.
also is like very much a glass cannon because you do want to run him up, but he's only rolling 4 defense dice. I mean, like yes,
Yeah.
he's got on 2, he's got 2 blocks and a recover. So sure, he can sit there and heal a little bit. He can heal a damage or something like that, but he's only got 8 stamina, 2 durability to begin with. So it's like he's kind of glass cannony. I mean, he's going to be interesting to play for sure. And I think like if you want someone that's going to be rolling a lot of dice and hitting kind of hard, sure. I mean, if you liked the original Vader One play style of just I'm going to roll a ton of dice and see what happens, this is probably a good secondary for you. But he's so glass cannon, he's just going to get smacked around. But that's very flavorful too.
Oh no, Todd. You know who he's gonna be really good to play with?
The best primary in the Galactic Republic. Is that who you're talking
Yeah.
about? The best primary in the Galactic Republic? Darth Vader?
You mean yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean you mean Obi-Wan Kenobi,
no,
Todd.
no,
Obi-Wan.
the best Galactic Republic character by far
uh I'm
is
just
Darth
saying
Vader.
like this box with Jedi Hunter, Rex, and Arfs does seem like it would be a lot of fun. I don't know if it would be good or not, but I know we're always trying to revive the good old days of Shatterpoint where everyone was mad about Vader running up and ruining everyone's day.
Right, right. But no, Nadar seems interesting. Like I said, I think he's so glass candy though. I think he's just one of those where, yeah, you're like once you move him because you have to move him up to the midline at some point in time because it only has that melee attack.
It's his job.
Yeah, once you move him up, he's just gonna die. Which, like I said, it's a flavor win because that's what he does. He runs forward and dies. So yeah, good on you,
Yeah, no,
Nadar.
no, they nailed it. They nailed it. And hey, I mean, the interesting thing is I know we're all excited about playing like with Chiari Mundi and stuff with like the earlier Republic stuff, but you could kind of see that these boxes were sort of released in a pair almost because like if you pair this guy with Chiari Mundi, well, now it doesn't really matter that you ran him all the way up because Cam will give you the reduction. He'll use his
The
abilities to
reduction
make
for
it
the
hurt
wounded unit. Yeah,
less.
I mean,
Yeah.
again, he's like a youngling getting his face punched in. I mean, it makes sense. He got he came out of his education as a Padawan a little too early because of the war, and it shows because he just wants to get beat up like a Padawan. So that makes
Right. They
sense.
don't really talk about this in the Clone Wars cartoon, but I wonder if the whole like Nadar was one of those Jedi Padawans that was in the like Brotherhood ceremony we were talking about, uh,
Hmm.
where they just kind of they emergency skip the trials. You're all Jedi Knights now. Go out and fight in the war. Okay, thanks. Bye. Maybe he
Right.
was one of those.
I strongly would suspect that if you were to sit there and dig into Like if you were to question it, I think that would be probably the way that it would go. But yeah, well, let's move on to the other two. I mean, I think that we kind of beat Nadar into the ground like
N-
Grievous did.
n-
So we can move on.
yeah, Nadar beats on things and then he gets beaten into the ground. That there you go. There's the gameplay.
Right, right. So the other two that come in are interesting, and this is Clone Commander Phil and Phil's clones. What's interesting is that you would expect that the Phil's clones would be threes because Kiadi Mundi is a five, or is 8 point, or not Kiadi Mundi. I'm losing it this morning.
This is the
Kit
Kit
Fisto
Fisto box.
Kit Fisto is an 8, and you have Nadar as a 5. So it would make sense that the clones would be threes. But we have a secondary in this with which is Phil's clones, or Phil himself, and Phil is also a 3, which is interesting. But the nice thing about this is that adds for a lot of usage in a lot of other units throughout the game. So you have another 3 you can pair with Mace Windu. You have another 3 you can pair with Anakin. Another 3 you can pair with the best primary in the Galactic Republic, and that is Darth Vader. So I mean, he fills a lot of needs, right, Aubrey?
Yes, Todd. Yes, he helps out Darth Vader, the best champion of the Republic that we have seen in the entire history of democracy in the galaxy.
I'm glad you're
Anyway,
finally coming around,
yeah.
Aubrey. I appreciate that. I am glad you're coming around.
uh I do feel like this is
But
another
no,
one of these
Phil's great.
situations.
I like it.
Yeah, no. This is another one of these situations, though. Like the first thing I think of is I don't understand what makes a three, because Phil's kit looks really good. Like he's got this grappling hook ability that's like a climb. He's got he also like this whole box is like, hey, we are all gunning for your primaries. Like he gets extra dice if he's attacking a primary. Then he's got this ability that's specifically tied to his supporting the Phil's squad, which I think is
Mhm.
so funny that we just call him Phil's squad. It's great. Um, but he can, because of that. It's kind of all right. I'm just gonna read it because it's difficult. When a character in an allied Phil squad unit makes an attack after the effect is resolved, this unit may use this ability. If the defending character is within 2 of an active objective, one allied Jedi may advance toward that objective. So that is wild. Like you could just suddenly be up in their face with that one.
Yeah, it takes a little setup. You want to make sure that you're within 2, like of an active object, or the defending character is within 2 of an active objective. So like there is some setup that goes along with this. So it's if it goes off, it's going to be great. But I'm hesitant on this one just because of when things get this wordy, that means there's a setup that people might miss part of the setup in order to make this work properly.
Wait, are you telling me that I might read the card wrong, Todd, while I'm playing the game? That never happens.
Okay, and this is where Sheev will come in and say deploy at range 3. So there you go, Sheev. That's for you.
Technically, it says deploy up to range 3. I deployed legally.
Fair enough. There you go, Sheev. He deployed legally. It's gonna be all over that one on Wednesday. But all right, but yeah, no, I mean, he does have some great stuff. Like I said, I'm hesitant on that ability just because there's a lot of setup for it. Yeah, I mean, being able to advance your Jedi a full advance is great. But yeah, you're definitely going to have to pay attention and make sure you're hitting every piece of this one, because if the Phil squad is making an attack, there has to be an objective within range 2 of whoever it's attacking, and it has to be an active objective if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be an active
Yeah,
objective. So I mean,
it's
like
an.
there's a lot to it. It has to be an active objective. But it is like the end result of getting your Jedi farther forward is fantastic. I mean that's what you really want to do is move your Jedi up. I mean, and on top of that, let's say for example you have two Jedi primaries and maybe you're pairing it the other Jedi primary with one like Shakti or with one of the Padawans. You know, there's a lot that you can do there. So you can have three, or even let's say you have like the Kiadi Mundi box and you have the Padawans and you want to move them forward so they can sit there and get beat up and killed nice and early for to pair with Cam. So there's a lot you can do there with this, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and I like sorry, I'm just thinking about the younglings getting batted off a bridge by Grievous. Uh, uh, um, like, and there is also this cool thing of like your Galactic Republic troopers within 3, if they would get a condition, instead they suffer a damage because you're probably like if you're playing Phil and Phil's clones, then you're probably playing more clones in here. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, so I mean there's definitely some good stuff you can do there. I
Yeah.
mean, being able to prevent a condition for a damage, I mean, how many times would you prefer to, you know, oh, you're going to strain me or you're going to expose me and instead I can just take a damage instead of being exposed? Sure. I mean, that's a trade that I think most people would take. Granted, you know, clones kind of melt to just about any attack, but I mean, no, not having a condition on them is definitely worthwhile.
Yeah. Thank you, Todd, for saving me. Apparently I'm still waking up over here. But yeah, no. Okay, so here's my other question for you. What what makes a 3 in this game? Because Phil seems really good for like a 3. Is it really just list building? Like, do we need to
It
stop thinking of 3s or 5s as being super different from each other?
Potentially, I don't know. I think once they do like the balancing, like I said, we know a balance is coming. I mean that from our like the interview with Plummer, we know that a balance is coming. We don't know when. Like my gut says that it's going to be coming once we have mini straps, so that's probably when we're going to see it. And I mean that might clarify it a little bit more. I mean because that might end up bringing the power level of threes up a little bit. Like because I think the biggest thing that we look at is pawn sucks as a three. The the 501st are horrible as threes. Is it that like that it just is that what muddying the waters when it comes to a three? Just because of some of the earlier releases of the threes just were not that great. And I think that's probably what it is more than anything. It's like they went they were conservative with the threes early, and now that we're 2 years into the game, they're not nearly as conservative with the threes, and they're making them where they actually will be able to see the board. So I think that has something to do with it as well, because I think they just needed to kind of figure out over the course of building the game and developing the game where those threes where the best way to put the threes were, and I think that's kind of what we're looking at overall. So I don't know. I don't know if we. I think that's going to be the turning point. Is probably what is that? Usually around June that they do mini strav. So I think that's probably when we're going to sit there and really kind of see what happens, because I'm almost positive we're going to see some sort of a balance of some of those characters that we didn't think. I mean, some probably will come down, some will go up, but I mean we'll see some balance. I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. Just because I'm thinking about like Luke as a 3 seems to be pretty solid because I haven't played with him yet. We got this one seems pretty solid, and I'm just sitting here going, okay, like I I think more and more I have to think of it in more agnostic terms. Yes, does a 3 tend to hit a little less hard, have a little worse expertise, maybe a little less damage, but more and more of their abilities are pretty on par with everybody else. So,
Mhm.
just reorienting my brain in real time for the audience. Thank you for following me along this journey, dear listeners.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, Phil seems okay. I mean, overall, but like one of the things I would say is he doesn't hit very hard. I mean, 3 damage on 3 successes with a disarm and a inish of that's all you have. There's no other options. It's like one is a damage, two is a damage and a disarm, three is a damage and a shove. So it's like he's not doing a whole lot of damage. It's at all. You know, rolling 5 dice at range 6 and melee. He doesn't hit hard. I mean, and that's one of the things. Yes, he's got some great abilities, but he isn't doing much. I mean, like at most he's doing 6 damage. Like that's full tree 5 successes. So it's okay, but he's not. You know, like I said, like that's one of the things to look at is yeah, he's got a great kit, but when it comes to rolling dice, he might put a little scratch on someone. That's about it.
Yeah, yeah. Now that I scrolled down, we do this. We prepare this well in advance, dear listeners. We definitely don't just roll up and decide what we're going to talk about on the spot. Yeah, now that you're looking at his combat, well, I guess I said it. Usually, where the threes are weakest is actually on their combat
Mhm.
tree and their stances. And yeah, looking, or not stances, expertise. And yeah, I don't get it. It feels like he should at least have like 6 on both, because I get what they're doing. You're adding the extra dice when you're attacking a primary. We can't always attack a primary with this guy. Like,
Mhm.
you're not going to have the force always. You're not going to be in the right position always. And then if you do a 5 dice ranged attack as your actual combat, like, B1s get to do that off of a uh oh god, what are they called? Tactical droid. Like, what do
Right.
you mean?
Right. Yeah. So I
Ugh,
mean, it's not that.
okay.
Like I said, he's and 5 dice into a range 4 range attack just isn't great. I mean, most people you're rolling are rolling the same amount of freaking defense dice, so you're probably only
Oh,
going one or two down the tree.
and he's range 4.
Yeah, you range 4. Yeah.
We okay, all
So
right, all right. I immediately retract some of my earlier statements on the spot. We don't need to record a retraction later. Yeah, that's like your most likely result is going to be 2 damage and a disarm. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's not that great. I mean, he's you're bringing him for his kit, not for what he's doing when he rolls dice. So that's one of the things. I mean, he
Yep.
does have some really interesting stuff, but that just shows that more than anything, you really are going to have to focus on that reactive ability we specialize in making entrances because and kind of setting it up. So you are going to have to really look at how you're setting up, how you're placing characters in order to take full advantage of his kit. So he's going to be interesting to use. I think he's probably got a place, um, but this is for players that really are going to be able to put the time in and learn how to place and their models properly.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, Galactic Republic feels like there's just slightly a bit more of a learning curve
Mhm.
to making their units work because like I mean, I will admit what because when these boxes both came out, I at first I was excited about Cam and then I was kind of down on Cam and now I'm higher on Cam. But this one I was really sad that Mace Windu didn't see more love. And the problem is like Mace Windu was good, but Pons was so bad that you basically were it was almost like you were skipping a turn in order to bring Mace Windu. And
Mhm.
and sorry, I love you, Samuel, but your character ain't that good to like basically
Right,
skip a turn to get to use him. So I'm
right.
I'm I'm hoping I'm hoping I get to dust off Mace Windu with these guys. Like, please let me play.
I mean, it's worth putting them in there and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of close it out, we'll take a look at Phil's clones, which are also the 3 point cost. Like we were talking about earlier, they're 2 units in that Phil's clones, the Phil squad. They're pretty standard. I mean, as far as the abilities, they have defensive maneuver, they have supporting fire with for a heal, which is pretty cool. They have brother in arms, with where they have a hunker, they have steadfast. So those are all abilities that we've already seen. The other one is we can take them down easy for a force when a character in this unit attacks a primary. They add 2 dice. So, like I said, these guys are primary hunters. Kind of again going with that episode of Clone Wars where they're going they're trying to hunt down Grievous. So like you kind of see a theme here where it's like, oh, these guys are primary hunters. So if you're going to try and take out a primary, you can use them, but again, they're not hitting that hard. I mean, on attacks, which is really cool. If they're going into a primary, it's range 5 for them with 9. They'd be rolling 9 dice. Um, but overall, I mean, best case scenario, they're doing 5 damage if they full tree. I mean, so two doing 5 damage is pretty great. If you full tree with both of them, rolling 10 dice, potentially you could get there. You're probably again getting 3 down the tree, rolling 10 dice, maybe 4, which is going to be 3 to 4 damage depending. Okay, it's not that great. I mean, they don't have a lot of conditions. The only condition is if you get to 5 on their tree, then they get a strain. They have a couple of shoves in there, but no, yeah, like I said, pretty standard meh for the clones that we see.
Hey, okay, fine. I'll be the nice one. There's an early shove. One early shove. That's all right. And they have eight. They have eight. Todd, what have I said basically about all of the clones since the beginning of the game? What do they need? They need like more,
eight,
one
eight
more
stamina, 2 durability. Yeah,
one more stamina. So I mean, we've got that. The only thing I'm concerned about is, and I love the flavor. Like it makes sense. They're hunting primaries. The whole box is hunting primaries. Cool. But like usually the path to victory, in like all other things being equal without talking about specific matchups and things, but usually the path to victory in Shatterpoint is wound the supports as quickly as you can, wound them early and often, and keep the supports off the board, because then you're taking down two bodies as opposed to one.
mm-hmm.
And this box is like, I don't want to fight the supports, I'm going after the big bad. And I'm like, okay, but like outside of like particular abilities where like the increased force cost can like slow down your opponent, like killing primaries isn't usually how you win a game of Shatterpoint. Like usually we do our best to avoid them. And famously someone might have attacked Dooku a whole bunch at a tournament, and it worked out as well as y'all can imagine it did, right? Like that doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I still want to play them. I don't care. I'm playing them with Mace Windu at some point.
yeah. I mean, I think they are definitely, at least Phil is definitely a improvement with Mace Windu over Pawn. So I mean, you definitely is someone you can throw in there, just to kind of at least give it a run. But I mean, overall, for me personally, I think like in the competitive sense of things, out of this box, you're probably going to see Kit Fisto played the most, and maybe Nadar, just if you want to play some glass cannon type, because at least he adds dice for everything. Phil's clones, I think, are probably going to end up being like that, relegated to let's see if they work with Mace Windu, and I don't know if they're really going to go anywhere else, just because they don't do a whole lot. I mean, like Phil, like I said, he has a pretty decent kit with his grapple hook and things along those lines, but he just pillow punches people, man. He's not really hitting hard at all.
Pillow punches. That's pretty good. I Yeah, and I mean, and it may just be that again, you're really just like with because of the supporting fire heals, and then the heal like on their second step. Like it feels like these guys are trying to make up for like how hard Nadar is going forward and then taking some hits. So it may just be that the sum of the parts are greater than the individual. I don't remember the line. However you say it, like
Some of the
maybe
parts is
this all
greater than the
works
whole. Yeah.
together. That thing, yeah, that. Like I don't know. We'll see.
Yep.
I am excited because this box shows that now AMG is going to be seeding boxes with things that are at least designed to try and help out older boxes. Like that's what I'm most excited about. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I find it interesting that there's a 3 cost secondary in this unit or in this box for sure. That's kind of unexpected, but welcome for sure, because there is definitely a need for another 3 cost secondary, especially within Galactic Republic. So I think that's going to be, definitely something to keep an eye on going forward. Is, are they going to have more stuff like this? So Sure. I mean, we can definitely take a look at that. Oh, you know what? I just realized looking at we specialize in making entrances. Um, it's referring to the Phil Squad tag, and Commander Phil actually has the Phil Squad tag as well, so he can trigger off. He can trigger this off of himself. As I was looking through that,
Oh, I missed that. Oh, that's cool. Okay, all right,
so
that
that
makes
makes it
more
a
sense.
makes
All
it a
right, I
little
was.
easy. It makes it a little easier for that to go off because he can so he can trigger it off of himself or off of something
Oh,
else. So
okay.
okay. I
Well, I'm glad
I I
you
I
caught that.
I like that ability a little bit better. Sorry, like retroactively looking back. I mean, now I like this ability a little bit better just because he can trigger it off of himself.
Yeah, yeah. No, that okay. I do like now. Okay, I'm a little higher on that one now. All
Mm,
right, all right. Hey, reading is hard, everybody. We do the reading, so you
mhm.
also have to do the reading.
Exactly.
Anyway, well, because I'm just thinking, like, if we go back to when the Grand Inquisitor box came out, and with this new, I mean, I don't want to call it a precedent. They've done it exactly one time in one box, but with this Kit Fisto box having this character in it that is very clearly designed for Mace Windu, like Mace Windu, Anakin, like Darth Vader. Like this character is not really designed to even play necessarily with Kit Fisto. Like Kit
Unless you
Fisto
want to play
doesn't
two
really care
points
about
down,
clone. Right, which
or
I
at
don't
least
know why.
one
Yeah,
down.
which right, yeah, which I don't know why. I don't know why you would, but maybe there's a world where there's a certain configuration, and maybe we get eventually like a 5 point support, like maybe Yoda gets temple guards or whatever, and then we need a
Hmm.
3 pointer. Like maybe they're also future seeding. But my point is that this unit is clearly designed to help other boxes, not necessarily this box. And
Hmm.
so going back to the Inquisitors, I feel like no one would have batted an eyelash if what's her name? Not fifth brother, fourth
Sister.
sister? Is
Hmm.
she fourth sister?
Hmm.
Yeah. If she had been 3 points and you could have played her with Darth Vader, like that would have pumped up the Inquisitor box. Not that people weren't playing Inquisitor like when he came out. Like I'm not saying he's necessarily the worst thing to be playing, but I'm hopeful that we're gonna keep seeing this. Like
Well, I mean,
I don't know. Is there
no,
something else you're
no, I mean,
thinking?
but no. Well, I mean, I'm thinking that that's something that, like, when they go back and do the balance patch here in a couple of months, that might be something that they look at and go, you know what, fourth sister just isn't seeing play at 4. She's not as strong as fifth brother. Maybe drop her down to a 3, and maybe play around with her, an ability of hers, make something, make one of her abilities, cost a force. But I mean, maybe turn, instead of force pull, you give her a force push or something like that, and make that a 2 cost to instead. You could play around with it, like make her a little bit more enticing to use as a 3. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that we could see that take place, or like I said, in future boxes, definitely seen stuff. I mean, we've seen, like, with the Krennic box, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the future, where they put 2 secondaries in there, or 2 support units in there. So it's definitely something that we'll see. I think in the future is more of this to help fill out your squads in different ways. But yeah, I mean, did you have any other thoughts to close this one out, or we think we're there?
I I just have one question. So if you were going to I don't even care if it's change a unit, or modify a unit, or come up with something new for a unit, who would you like to see have more love? Maybe a primary. Who would you like to see get a little bit more for their kit?
In all honesty, I because, like, again, she's my one of my favorite characters of all of Star Wars, is probably to see something happen with Asajj. Um, she just isn't able to utilize her kit as well as we would expect it to. I mean, even if it's something as simple as reworking her stance tree so that you can hit that force push, maybe putting that to get to where that force push can be on 3 instead of 4, because a lot of times you just didn't hit it. So there's just, like, a lot of times her kit just wasn't quite working the way that you were hoping it to. I would like to see her maybe get a little bit of a rework to make her just a little more, a little easier to use, a little more to use, a little better to use. Because I mean, like I said, she's definitely my one of my favorite characters, just her because of her story arc. How about you?
Nice. I would just like to see Rebels get like a 3 point secondary. Like, I think that would give you some more options to use, like Luke, or maybe even like Leia Freedom Fighter to do some more shenanigans. Like we have Luke the secondary that is 3 points, but I would really like to play him with Luke the primary. Oh wait, I can't.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that would just be. I don't know what character it'd be. I don't know what it could be. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just like some kind of rebel commander from, like, I don't know, the Battle of Hoth or something. But like, I would just like to see a 3 point secondary for rebels, because, like, if I'm not mistaken, almost everybody, well, okay, maybe not separatists. Separatists never get any love. But almost everybody has a 3 pointer somewhere. But Rebels is locked behind the name tag, and like, yes, it's fun to play with that Luke too, but I want more. I want another one, please.
Nope. I hear you. I hear you. So yeah, I mean, I think we'll probably. I mean, like I said, it'll be interesting to see kind of what comes in the future, and everything along those lines. But yeah, I mean, so this will be releasing, like, I think the Wednesday of Adepticon, pretty much. So like for everybody that is at Adepticon, if you want to stop by and see us, we will be in the streaming area for the most part, streaming all weekend long, for the World Championship. So definitely stop by, if we have a chance in between rounds. We'll definitely, want to have conversations with all of you guys. So stop by, say hi. We'll look forward to seeing you. But other than that, just to kind of close everything out, as always, I do want to thank each and every one of you for listening. We do appreciate all of our listeners. You guys are the reason why we keep doing this, because if not, we'd just be talking into the void as always. Aubrey's really good at that, though. So, I mean, I don't think that would stop him anyway. But yeah, I mean, that's all we would be doing. But so we do appreciate you guys. If you do want to support us, by all means, the best way to do so is to join our Patreon. I do want to take a chance to thank all of our patrons. You guys are amazing. You are definitely the ones that keep us going, help us do what we do, and put on all of the coverage that we're going to be able to do at Adepticon. You're really kind of the lifeblood of the podcast, and allow us to sit there and continue to do that. So if you want to help us out, by all means, that's definitely something you can do, but that's not always for everyone. So if you do want to support us any other way, just rate, review the podcast on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That definitely does help bring attention to the podcast and let everyone know that we're out here. Or if you're watching on YouTube, you can definitely like, subscribe, hit that bell, all that good stuff that you do on the YouTube. But other than that, if you, again, I do want to thank each and every one of you for listening. And as always, may the force be with you.
May the force be with you.